So today we'll be going over the income statement, which for this example we're going to be comparing it to football, and start with we go over revenue, which I proceeded to use overall just like scoring points, because the more an NFL team would score points, the more the difference becomes, and the comparison to it is kind of like a business creating revenue and gaining money over time. In the similar way, it's like if a team keeps scoring, they keep bringing the difference between them and their opponents. And then just for more of a quicker example in terms of like expenses, I often just kind of use like penalties, because it's like with the constant plays on offense, you run the risk of getting more penalties. And with those, it brings you back further than what you would have wanted to happen. But as a cost for constantly running the ball and just moving the ball off the field, you have a higher chance of getting penalties. And then in terms of operating income or loss, I often just use kind of like just like the halftime score. Mainly just because of the fact is you look at the offense and then you kind of look at what you kind of gave up in exchange for it. And that's kind of what determines kind of like your operating income. Mainly in the sense of just like it kind of shows you like what should be the expected results to it. However, that may not always be the case. Which example of just like some things not always be the case would be like special teams plays. Mainly just because the fact is just like they create like a lot of the difference between like a team actually playing well or a team playing bad. Like, for example, the greatest display of just how a special teams impacted an entire NFL team is like just the 2010 Chargers as a whole, because, yes, you read that right. They had the number one ranked offense and defense, but they probably had the worst special team units of all time, given the fact they allowed for 4 kickoff returns / punt returns for touchdowns, and they missed the playoffs going 9-7, even though they were the second in their division. But even after considering all of that, it kind of leads into what ends up being the net income / loss, which I often just use as the final score. Because yeah, even though it's like you get to the operating income, you think, oh, we're doing fine, it doesn't always end up painting the true picture of what actually is happening.